Welcome to this specimen paper walkthrough for OCR Computer Science J277. Now this is just talking through what we call the Comp 1 paper, the Component 1 paper, which as you can see is over 1 hour and 30 minutes. It's actually worth 80 marks. Now what we're going to talk through on this is how to answer the questions, what the answers are, and the best way to maximise marks. Now this video is brought to you by smashyourexams.com, and we have lots of tuition available for students and groups of students who want to get involved with OCR Computer Science, AQA Computer Science, or Edexcel, both at GCSE and the A level. So let's have a go at the paper here. We'll talk a little bit, like I said, about how we answer the questions. Now first thing you notice that we're not allowed to have a calculator in the exam. So we're not allowed one of those. So we're going to have to answer the questions and work out a bit of column method when we get to certain questions. Obviously, fill in the front, fairly self-explanatory. So here we go. Question number 1. It says, here is the spec of 2 computers in the figure. So we need to use it in a second. Let's go read the question first. When running a 3D flight simulator, computer 1 is likely to run faster than computer 2. Use the information in figure 1 to identify one reason. Now, identify questions are normally quite short in terms of their answers. They're normally maybe a sentence tops. I would generally recommend not just write 1 or 2 words if you can. And that's just because, obviously, the exam board's going to try and read your full sentence. The other thing is, because it says identify 1, we can't give 2 reasons. Because if the first one we give is wrong, but the second one is correct, the exam board have been told and the examiner have been told to only mark the first answer to stop students guessing. Let's have a look at this. We've got computer 1. It's got a clock speed of 1 gigahertz. So my head's going, well, that means it can do 1 billion simple instructions per second. Computer 1 has 2 gigs of cache memory, 2 megs even, and has 4 cores. Computer 2 has 1.4 gigahertz, so it can do 1.4 billion instructions per second, and it has a cache size of 2 megabytes. Okay, and lastly, it has 2 cores. So let's go and read the question again though. When running a 3D flight simulator, computer 1 is likely to run faster than computer 2. So they're actually saying computer 1 is faster. And when you first look at it, clock speed's actually smaller. That doesn't really make sense. So let's go and have a go at putting an answer into this. Let's just put that in here. So computer 1 is likely to run faster, and use the question, than computer 2 because computer 1 has more cores than computer 2. And that's pretty much all I'm looking for. They're basically looking for more cores in there. That's just explain it. And like we said in papers, it's worth 1 minute a mark. So we've got about 70 marks if we do 1 minute a mark, and that gives about 10 minutes then to check it. Part B, identify 2 of the parts of a computer that are not in figure 1. Right, that's really important in kind of questions. 2 other parts that are not in figure 1. So figure 1's all about the CPU. So we give 2 parts when inside the computer that will help improve the performance of the computer. So again, let's get that in, type box, and we're going to put in RAM. Okay. All right, I'm just going to add to that, even though you have in a larger amount of RAM. Get it to say Y, and then we've got another one here. Identify 2 parts. Also, the secondary storage. Using an SSD. And there's a couple of things you could have said in that. Actually, you could have talked about GPUs, which are not part of the GCSE spec, but you might know as a student anyway. But having more RAM is going to improve the speed of the computer, and actually using secondary storage such as an SSD, because SSD have a higher read-write speed, is going to be much better for that kind of question. Next one, explain one reason why the cache size affects the performance of the CPU. Now, my students often will say, and we're not going to write this on the paper, that because the cache is closer. Now, that is technically true. In most CPUs, the cache is built into the actual chip, so it's very close to the cores, which do the processing. However, that's not going to get us an exam in the a mark in the exam, so we're going to write something else. We're going to write what the cache does first. So the cache holds frequently / commonly used instructions / data. That's what it does. Okay. So by increasing the cache size, we increase the amount of frequently / commonly used instructions / data that the CPU can hold. By having more cache, it means we use the RAM less. The RAM, let's put the cache. The cache is significantly faster than the RAM. This therefore speeds up the CPU as it will take instructions / data from the cache instead of the RAM. Now that's quite a detailed answer. I mean, the key thing the exam board's looking for in there is that you know that it holds frequently used data. You know that having more of it means you can hold more of that frequently commonly used data. And you know that the cache is faster than the RAM. They're the kind of things they're looking for. But we've just added our answer just to make sure that we cover all bases, to make sure we get full marks. That's quite useful in a paper. And most of the time, computer science papers taught to my students, they'll often finish, particularly the component one paper that's very theory-based, they'll often finish that a little bit quicker than probably the hour and a half anyway. Identify 2 events that happen during the fetch, decode, execute cycles. I have a note, so I don't. Firstly, the instruction is fetched from memory. Alright, there's 1. 2, I could also put the instruction is, can't spell instruction. Instruction is decoded by the control unit. Now, there's quite a few things I could say on that one as well. I could even say that instruction is executed. I could say that the program count is incremented by 1. I could say that the cycle is continuous and repeats. I could actually even go to the A-level answers and start talking about certain parts of the program count and how that works. But at GCSE, they're the kind of main things we look for. The instructions fetched from memory, the instructions decoded by the control unit, the instructions executed, the program count incremented by 1, and lastly, the cycle is continuous. So Nina wants to transfer photos from a digital camera to an external secondary storage device. Define what is meant by secondary storage. So let's go to that. Secondary storage is permanent / non-volatile storage of data. Again, the question that's probably going to get us a mark, but just to make sure, I'm just going to add a bit on there. For Nina and her camera, this will store photographs permanently. Alright, I'm just making sure I'm covering all the bases to make sure I get as many marks as I possibly need to get onto there. Alright, identify 3 types of secondary storage. Again, we either notice or we don't. We have magnetic, optical. Questions to identify or kind of give 3, so I don't have to give much more detail on that. 4 characteristics. Well, there are actually 6, but we'll just make sure we cover all of those. So, on capacity, that the amount of data the drive can store. Transfer speed. I notice I didn't just put speed there. I want to make sure I don't drop marks. I need portability, reliability, and there's my 4. I've got my 4 there. But I could also talk about other things like cost per gigabyte. I noticed I just put cost down there. Okay. And then I'm pretty much done on that one, and then durability. Now, in those kind of questions, what I would advise you do is take your time, what I call RTFQ, which is read the flipping question, and think, what's my best 4? Don't just give and regurgitate what's straight in your head. I know in exams we're a bit stressed. We want to really think about what is our best 4 answers we can give. Alright, so tick. Let's read these questions, because my students often drop marks in these kind of questions when we do mocks. A satellite navigation system uses RAM and ROM. Fair enough. Tick 1 box in each row to show whether the statement is true for RAM or ROM in SatNav. Now, my students will often, if it says give 1, we'll certainly try to do 2. And if it says give 1 or more, they'll often only give 1. Now, some cases 1 or more, there is only 1 right answer. But this one's saying that we only need 1 in these 2, 1 in here, and 1 in here. That would go to that one. Now, obviously, I should put a tick, but we're going to put an X instead, because I haven't got a tick on here. And then the next one, the contents of this are lost when the sat nav's turned off. That would be RAM. And holds a copy of open maps. Again, currently used data is what RAM does. So that one's going to go there. All right. Again, one per done. The sat nav contains an embedded system. Define what's meant by an embedded system. Now, the exam board in the summer, this video has been recorded in November 2023, changed the answer a little bit. So, an embedded system, this is why coming to someone like Smash Your Exams is very good, because we will read all the papers and we will look at all the little differences the exam boards do, while other tutors often don't or other companies don't. An embedded system is a smaller system inside of a larger system. It has a limited number of functions. Now, it used to be that it was just one, but the exam board kind of changed it in the summer. The other thing the exam board added, which again I'm going a bit over the top here, is it contains a microprocessor, was something they added to the answer in the summer. But definitely, if I can just say an embedded system is a small system inside a large system, I get a mark for that. Had a limited number of functions, I get a mark for that. Contains a microprocessor. All three of them would have got me a mark. However, right, next question. Identify 3 devices other than a sat nav which contain embedded systems. Now, the question that came up in July 2023, you had the RTFQ because it said which of those, it said give some embedded devices that were inside of a car. Now, a lot of students give generic ones. So again, this question is quite generic, but RTFQ, it says a sat nav, so we can't give that. We need to give them one. So washing machine, we'd be absolutely fine. Now, I wouldn't pick a tumble dryer because some tumble dryers work differently. I wouldn't pick a microwave or a kettle. Dishwasher. You want something that's got a little screen on the front. And again, don't try and pick smart TV, smart kettle, smart toaster. No, don't do those. They're not going to be good for you. You want to pick the ones the exam board always do. So washing machine, they pick dishwasher, and they often pick an engine car management system. So we're going to use exactly that. And this is why tutoring is really useful, because it will go through some of your misconceptions and help you. We have programs for both master classes, and we will have some smaller programs for individual, but obviously the master classes will be a lot cheaper and probably just as good for you and a lot of students, unless you really want to work individually. A computer records an audio file when you're playing a guitar. To describe what happens when the computer converts the music into a file. Well, the microphone or computer samples the wave a number of times per second, called the frequency. At each measurement, the height of the wave is measured. Each of these measurements measurements are converted into binary from their denary value. Okay, so basically that question, I get a mark for saying that the height of the wave is measured. I get a mark if I said talk about frequency in the right way, and I get a mark for saying it's converted. So there you go. Definitely got all those. The sample rate is increased. What's going to happen to the file? 2 effects. So first effect is that the size of the file will increase because we have more measurements in the file. So that's going to be the first one. Just going to drag that one up there. It's halfway across, a tiny bit. And then the second one, the quality of the file will increase as we have a better range of measurements. So the actual sample rate, what it does is it means that I can either more accurately measure the wave, or can get a higher peak and trough of the wave, which you might have learned something like physics. So convert the number 11001011. Well, I need a binary waiting line. Yeah, it might be that you can do it without it, but again, we'd recommend for most students to have a binary waiting line. So we're going to have 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. Now, these questions are really important to look at if it says they give a number in a certain format. Like if it says 1 byte. Now, we're being given the number, so it's a bit different. So I'm just going to write that number below. So it's 1, 1. I think it's been helpful putting a dot after each number. 0, 1, 0, 1, 1. Now, what I do is I basically just add up all of the columns that I've got a 1. I add the place value for it. Just going to go these dots. So basically, I'm going to add 128, and I'm going to add 64, and I'm going to add numbers go over it, and I'm going to add 8, and I'm going to add 2 and 1. So 128 plus 64, no 32, no 16, and 8, and then a 2 and a 1. Now, like I said, you don't have a calculator, but I can use one just here. 128 plus 64 plus 8 plus 2 plus 1. So I get 203. However, what I would recommend you do is you use the space around here to do some column method, and basically have 128, 64, 8, 2 and 1 all within there to get that number. So use column method, and again, please make sure you double check or triple check your answer, because again, a lot of my students will be 1 or 2 out, and you're like, you could have got that right. Next one, perform a right shift on that number. So let's just write the number up first, easiest way. 1 1 0 0 1 0 1 1. So I actually wrote the answer exactly. Let's just RTFQ. It says to the right. Okay. So the couple ways I could do this. One way is I basically take each digit and I write it out again. It's a bit hard on a computer. And I write it out again, but just actually shift it down a bit. So 1 1 0 0 1 0 1 1. Now I'm going to lose these 2 bits here. Okay, so I can cross through them with an exam. But I've got 1 2 3 4 5 6. So what happens is at the start, so we get a couple of zeros to pack that. Check again, just make sure you add up how many you've got. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Quite a common mistake students will do is they'll forget to double check they've still got 8 bits if they've accidentally chopped 2 off. Explain the effect. Now, it's a bit of a funny question. Like I said, explain the effect, singular, but it's worth 2 marks. So clearly one thing is not going to get me the mark on that. So I'm going to write 2 things down here. 1, the number has been divided by 4. And the reason I know that is each time we move it to the right, we divide by 2, then 4, then 8, etc., etc. There has been a loss of accuracy because we have a binary underflow. So that answers that question there. Again, loss of accuracy is what they're looking for, but because we can go a little bit further, you might show our knowledge. We've got a binary, a binary underflow. That's basically where the 2 ones on the right-hand side get lost completely, and we lose those. So there's that done. So the table gives ASCII code for the characters. Explain how the word mop would be represented in ASCII. It's a bit of a funny question because it doesn't really say whether it wants us to use them. We could talk a little bit about it. So in ASCII, each letter has a unique representation, like shown in the table above. For example, mop would be 77, 79, 80. This would then be stored by the computer in binary. Okay, so we've pretty much got that one done there. We're just basically briefly talking about what ASCII is. We don't have to go in massive detail. And it says, explain how the word mop would be represented. So we're saying each one's got a unique number, and we're then telling them what those unique numbers are. All right, number 7, the owners of a large bakery have a LAN, local area network, with a star topology. And we'll talk about what that is in a minute. They order suppliers of internet. When data is transmitted from the bakery to the supplier, network protocols are used. What is a network protocol? Well, word for word, it is a division of network functionality. That's what I have to know. If I could spell, that would make life a bit easier. There you go. Division of network functionality. 1 mark. That's the only answer I can give. With regards to the protocol, to find what it meant. No, I didn't. I've misread the question against my RTFQ. This one is for there. Here's why you should always check answers before you finish the exam. What is a network protocol? A network protocol is a set of rules that governs communication on a network. And I'm just going to give an example. E.g. TC. Now, I didn't really need to give an example for 1 mark, but just to be on the safe side. Again, division network functionality, that is the only answer we can give for the next one. Explain one advantage. So I've got to give one, a bit like what we call in our school, a P sentence, or something called a peel sentence. So make a point, I'm going to provide some evidence and explain it in a bit more depth. So that's just, I've lost the question a second. Describe one advantage using layers to construct network protocols. So one advantage of using layers to construct is that you can edit one layer without affecting the other layers. This therefore promotes interoperability. Now that is a bit of a word to spell, so just check that one back here. The other thing we could have also said is that with network protocols, we can just work on one part of the network as opposed to all parts of the network at once. So give 2 reasons why the bakery might use a star topology. Now, it would have been better if we had, we could draw a little bit, there you go. So a star network topology basically means that in the center, we have a switch, and then we have some devices off the side. Again, if you're going to start doing A-level code nodes, which are connected there. So a star topology always has a switch in the center of it. And we have some computers around the outside. So let's just draw a rectangle, and that can be my computer. And this could be another computer. And then we could even have a little printer here. Let's put a P in it to show it's a printer. Okay. There you go. So we've got a printer. So we've got to think about what were the reasons why the bakery might use a star topology. Well, we can then put down that there is an issue with one computer on the network due to a damaged cable, then only that computer is affected. So if there's a problem with this network cable here, change the color a second. So if let's imagine this network cable gets damaged, it only affects this one, but the rest of the network can still work absolutely fine. Okay, so that's one reason I might use that as well. 2 seconds, I could give 2 reasons why the bakery is an issue that one computer might be affected by another. It doesn't really say, so we can talk about, we have to know about mesh networks as well. So we can talk about that a star network would allow different parts of the network to communicate and send packets through the switch. Now, the other thing we could talk about, like I said, is we learn about mesh networks. So we could talk about, well, actually, the star network's better than the mesh network. So this is a star network, but if we start connecting other bits up, this is like, so we could say that this computer has a connection to this computer, etc., etc. It starts to become what's called a mesh. That means that some computers have more connections to other parts of the network. So we could talk about the fact that obviously a star network is significantly cheaper than using that kind of network. Next one, it says a hospital stores patients' details on its computer network. The hospital is concerned about the security of its patients' details. Staff already use strong passwords, so they already use that. So we can't already use strong passwords. We can't talk about strong passwords again, because the example will say, nope, you've already been told that. And that's why, again, very important we read the flipping question. Explain with reference to system security 3 other ways. So they could install a firewall. Now that's not going to get as many marks. Yeah, I need to then explain that. A firewall would help the hospital network as it would stop unauthorized, again always think about the word unauthorized, packets from entering or leaving the network. And I could expand upon that, but that's going to get us a mark for that one, 2 marks that one, yeah. Next one, I could install antivirus software or anti-malware software. Antivirus software will scan any files on the machines and remove any viruses found. This protects the patient's details from being affected. And then I've got to give another reason. Now it says system security. So sometimes when these kind of questions, you've got to think about what's system security. Well, if I start talking about like installing physical security, it doesn't really apply as well in this situation. So I could have something else that's going to help them. So I could talk about maybe biometric install biometrics to help improve authentication. Authentication is used as a password, but and again, this would help on top of passwords, as it would prove they are the correct user. No, authorized user. Authorized. Okay. And that's about it. We could talk about other things as well. On there, we could talk about using encryption, because that would help people's data as well. And we just need to think about what's system security, really. Passwords are being done, so pretty much most of the good ones are already pretty much done, but that's going to cover us enough to get 6 marks on that one. I don't know, 3 errors that they could make that might endanger security network. Now, I need to be careful, because my students often will repeat the same thing. What could they do? They could leave their computer unlocked. All right. What could they do to prevent this? Now, they'll always talk about staff training, so let's not talk about staff training. Enforce good network policy by ensuring computers are automatically locked after a period of time. All right, they could do that. What else could they do? Well, they could maybe get some spyware installed, so they could click on malicious links on emails. What could they do? They could install anti-spam filters to try and stop malicious emails getting through. They could also, again, it doesn't tell how many things I can give, so 3 errors, when it's in the same error, but I'm just describing it more. They could have antivirus software to stop malicious files being downloaded. So that's going to cover them for that one, yeah? What else would staff do that they shouldn't do? They could even have weak passwords. I mean, they've been told they've got to have strong passwords, so I'd probably stay away from that, to be fair, but we could probably talk about that as well in there. What other things do they do that they shouldn't do? I mean, they could just, they could just visit things. They might not use encryption. They might not have good network policies generally, so they might click on links on websites, and it's the same kind of thing from above. We can get them to think about that and how can they try and sort it. So again, we could then maybe provide staff training on malicious websites and how to spot malicious websites. Think there. Now, other things they could do, because of the way that it's got here, they could even leave things unlocked. So let's have that one as well. That's a 4. They could leave access to server rooms or IT rooms unlocked. Now again, we could train staff to make sure they don't do those kind of things. But there's lots and lots of things that staff could do. And for each one, we just need to give one thing the staff could do and try and follow it up as best as possible. Next one, a restaurant has a computer-based operating system which is running slowly. A technician has said the hard disk drive is fragmented. The technician has suggested using utility software to defrag the drive. Explain how the restaurant's hard disk could be defragmented. Now, we've got a scenario here. They've not just given a scenario just for the crack. They've given us a scenario because they want us to use it. So we can't just leave nothing about the restaurant. So let's go and put in here a little bit of that. So as the restaurant takes orders and makes new files, it uses up part of the HDD. Now you should put, not actually, hard disk drive. Okay, I'm going to purposely try and get it to use spaces so it's on the lines. Use a hard disk drive. Then, as orders or files are complete, these complete orders or are complete, these files are deleted. This leaves empty spaces, which means the drive is now becoming fragmented. Okay, so basically they're taking orders. 1, it fits in the scenario. They're making files. 2, the orders are complete, these files are deleted. 3, this leaves empty space within the drive. So what you would then say is that the defragmentation software, I'll put that line, the defragmentation software would put those empty spaces at the end of the drive. This makes sure that the data is contiguous. Basically, contiguous is a posh word for continuous using computer science somewhere. And this would then speed up the drive. Again, probably going a bit over the top here. This would also give the restaurant more space on their drive. And this is basically because in the drive it uses something called pages, which again, very A-level, but imagine these pages are equal sized blocks, and it could be those equal sized blocks and they get partially used. Defragmentation will stop that. Oh, actually, look, there you go. That's why I should read the question. That's fine. Let's do that. And then, hold on. Let's copy that. And let's put that down here. Okay, so would be fully used. Okay, so that's how we take an orders. Gives a mark. This takes up space on the hard drive. The orders are then finished. Again, we're fitting in the idea of a restaurant. They're deleted. This leaves space that becomes fragmented. And we've kind of repeated ourselves a little bit. Again, didn't really read ahead. Defragmentation software, then we can put this empty space in the drive. 1 mark, make sure it's contiguous. 2, this would give the restaurant more space. 3, yeah, that's because they're all in. So again, we've got quite a few things there that could have covered those ones there. Now it is, again, it's a little technique that I suppose probably should have used, that sometimes you get ahead of yourself on the exam and you want to write more. Sometimes the next question might even be what you need to actually cover. What's meant by a WAN? Okay, WAN is a wide area network. Now, it doesn't say, it just says a wide area network. It does say in the question, so I don't get any marks for that bit. It's over a large geographical. Now that's probably remark. However, it doesn't say just give 1. So let's put in the second thing, just in case they don't agree with the first one, because this doesn't give us a number. It uses external hardware, such as telephone lines and satellite connections. So in that case, because the question doesn't say just give 1, why not just give 2 anyway? You're probably going to finish the exam a bit early, so that gives you a bit of time. Now, explain 2 advantages to the law company who've stored their data in the cloud. Now, my class, and every class I've had over the past 5 or 6 years of my experience, and they've all done very well, by the time they get their mocks in kind of November, December, they're starting to get better answering these questions, but very often early on, they'll give very generic answers. So I'll think, oh, and I know a good thing about the cloud is that it allows you to have unlimited storage from the point of view of the user. And it does, but that's not an experience. I could put that. The cloud allows the law firm allows for unlimited storage from the point of view of the user. That's a generic point. This is useful for the law firm as it means they can take on more cases. Also, it means they can store lots of files to support the law case, such as videos, audio, and images. So I'm just making sure that I don't just make a generic point. I'm trying to get it back to the law firm all of the time. Worst case, if you're not sure, I always try and say to the students to use the person's name or use the company's name or the kind of generic company name in this case to try and get the mark. So always do that because that's really useful. Explain two advantages. I'll give one. Another good thing is another advantage, we use a question to the law firm, is that it can access law firm and its lawyers can access their data from anywhere. Now again, that's fairly generic, and this means that the lawyers could access data in the office, or if they wanted to, in the courtroom. This is useful to access their data as they need it. So again, I give a generic point and then I'm backing up why is that useful for the lawyer, and I put a third point just to be on the safe side. I've got those 3 lines, in this case like 4 lines. Why not use them all? Explain 2 disadvantages. So one problem could be data can only be accessed from the cloud as long as you have an internet connection. Now notice I didn't put down a Wi-Fi connection because, you know, Wi-Fi and internet are not the same thing. You could have a wired connection to the internet. Okay. This could be an issue if when the lawyer tries to access the data, they don't have a stable or fast enough internet connection. So that could be an issue there. The other problem we've got with the cloud is it could be expensive for the law firm to use the cloud if they are storing large amounts of data. The more capacity they need, the more it will cost the law firm. So if they are storing larger files such as videos, audio, or images, it could be expensive. So again, I'm making the point it's generally expensive. Why is it a problem for the law firm? I've put that down. So let's scroll down. Figure 2 lists some actions that may take place in the law company's office. Tick one box, so again, one in each of these. So it says using a picture for the law company's new logo without their permission. So that's going to be the Copyright Design and Patents Act. Number 2, a secretary accessing a lawyer's personal email account without their permission. That's called unauthorized access, so that's computer misuse. Making a copy of the latest Hollywood blockbuster movie and sharing it with a client. So again, they're going to be breaking copyright law there. Storing customer data insecurity, that's DPA. A lawyer installing some keylogger, that's again unauthorized access. And then selling clients' personal legal details without permission. So there's 2 of those for each, and that is that question done. We're pretty much done. People often want, now this question's 8 marks, not very much space for 8 marks. Firstly, what am I marked on when I do 8 mark questions? So hopefully you know this, but you're marked on knowledge, application, evaluation. The 3 things I'm marked on. So I've got to do a little bit of each of those. All right. Secondly, these are the bullet points they're giving me. They want me to cover those bullet points. Okay, so you want to have a little plan that fits in with that. Now, it's pretty hard for me to do on a computer, but I need to have some points for smartphone users. I need to think of some cultural issues. I need to think of some ethical issues. And I need to think of some environmental issues further down there somewhere. Okay, so I need to think about, people often want to buy the most up-to-date phone. How could this discuss the impact of wanting to upgrade the latest phone? So it could be for smartphone pressure they put in to buy that for user. That could be an issue. They're the kind of key things I'm thinking at the top of your head. Cultural issues again, coming a bit harder, but some places may not allow use of phones. There could be some censorship. So censorship is where you basically censor ship. That might cause a problem there. On the ethical side, might think it's, now remember, ethical means it's your opinion if it's right or wrong. It doesn't mean it's against the law. That buying a new phone each year is wrong. Think using a smartphone, and shift us across, go run out of space, smartphone is wrong. Environmental issues. What CO2 used to produce the phone? The CO used to power the phone. Disposal of those materials. The use of those materials in the first place. Now, I'm doing this quite quickly. You'd obviously spend a bit longer. I would say for these kind of questions, and we'll talk about Comp2 in a future video, probably more than a minute a mark. So 8 minutes is probably not going to cut it. You're probably talking 12 to 15. Okay. Just quick chat. Anything else we think about smartphones? Peer pressure, the cost of the user, yearly updates. Even if you don't buy the latest iPhone or whatever, they're coming out every year. Some people might not want a smartphone. So it could be that some people don't want them in general. But what we're trying to do with this kind of question is make sure, one, are we covering all the areas? Now, when we answer the question, knowledge, a lot of the points I've put down are basic knowledge. Now, application, I have to link it back. Now, this scenario, it doesn't really lend itself to linking it back. It's just very generic. But if it mentions a company, can I use the company name to try and get that in there? The other thing is, I've got to have an evaluation. So at the very end, and I'd probably recommend this question need extra paper, so please get some. Most new exam papers have it on the back anyway, is I need to write an evaluation. So this requires a little bit of what we call metacognition. As I'm going through the answer, how am I doing time-wise, look at the clock on the whole, but also think, have I covered all these things? So I would do, as I'm answering the question, as I go through, I'd go, oh, have I talked about that? Yeah, tick. Have I talked about that? Yeah, tick. How am I going to structure it? Am I going to have a paragraph on this, paragraph on this, paragraph on this, paragraph on this? Am I going to give one thing about smartphone use, one thing about, it's up to you really, that bit doesn't totally matter. The other thing is I'm marked on my spelling, my punctuation and my grammar. Now, I'm going to be honest, as a computer science teacher, my spelling, punctuation and grammar, my students will tell you, is okay. I'm not the best though. So I'd have to take some time to read my answer back to make sure I haven't made any mistakes, particularly on things that are common. And I must have an evaluation, yeah? In my opinion, I think it is bad that people always buy the latest smartphone. And I need to write why, yeah? There's no real right or wrong answer, but the exam board's going to look for a top mark, so it's out of 8, so you're probably talking 6 to 8. Did they make good knowledge points? Did they apply those answers? Have they got a good evaluation? And often, sometimes, some questions you read and you go, Does that really need an evaluation? Yes, always write an evaluation. Hopefully that's been useful for you. I know it's been a whistle-stop tour of that Comp 1 sample paper. If you are the kind of student that feels actually, parents at home or guardian feel that actually a little bit of a tutor will be useful, remember to visit smashyourexams.com, and we have different packages on there. For most people, I think probably doing it as a group would be better. However, if you want individual, more one-to-one tutoring, that's also available. It's all done online, so it doesn't matter where you are in the country. And also, we have on the smashyourexams.com website everything like knowledge organizer, which are very good to help you revise in preparation for your exams. So that's our Comp 1 walkthrough for the specimen paper. Click up the top here if you want more videos on computer science revision.